You can't tell internal me that I'm not a 65-year-old white man.
Welcome to Leadership In. I'm Jeff Wallenitz.
I'm Greg McDonald.
And we're thrilled today to have a great guest here. I personally am thrilled because I love this person so much, and I'm going to flatter her a little bit before we come in and introduce her, especially since she's sitting right here. So today's guest is Amanda Forrester, SVP of Marketing at OpenX. She's done stints at LiveRamp and Ampersand and the New York Times. I see a handful of places across the industry. Super talented, super smart, super awesome. Amanda Forrester, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So thrilled to have you. Okay, here's where we're going to start. This is where we typically start. Tell us what you do. Just lay out what you do for us. Like, how would you introduce yourself at a dinner party?
Oh, at a dinner party, I try not to talk about work too much because ad tech is something that people are like, oh, and then they run away.
Conversation killer.
I tell people that I lead marketing at a B2B advertising technology company.
I mean, that's super succinct. That's a legit elevator pitch. Yeah. And so if someone asks a follow-up question, say, tell me more about the advertising part. Where do you typically go from there?
I talk about like digital advertising and data, and it's fun sometimes to watch people lean in to be like, oh, the ads that follow me around. And I'm like, no. The things that you are thinking about buying or don't even realize you need. Someone gave me a really disgusting example the other day. They were like, I got a skin tag remover ad. And I was like, somebody probably targeted you based on you having been pregnant a year ago. And their face just dropped.
That's hilarious.
And
sorry, that was
that is a perfect example. Yeah,
that is a great example. And how did you get into ad tech? Like, what was the start?
So I started my career in ad sales at the New York Times, and I was in inside sales. I worked on liquor and CPG and international fashion and fashion at one point, but mainly CPG. And they handed me a ruler on my first day of work and a binder, and I learned how to price out the per column inch. I honestly thought that I was going to sell newspaper subscriptions when I accepted the job. I didn't really understand that I was selling advertising until I went through their very extensive onboarding process, which was absolutely fantastic. And then at the time, they were like, oh, and we have this digital property, so try and sell a $5,000 digital campaign with every single thing that you do. I did that for a couple of years. Matt Prohaska was building a trading desk at the New York Times at the time, and he was training everybody on what this programmatic thing was. And this is probably a couple of years in, so maybe 2012. And I was like, oh, this is the future of how advertising gets bought and sold. So I left sales because it wasn't for me. I went into their internal marketing department for external clients, which eventually became the T-Brand Studio. And then I left to go to Tremor Video, which was an ad network. They built a DSP. I got to work on their DSP. Then they built an SSP, and I raised my hand to be the first marketer on their SSP. And I was the only marketer on that SSP for a year. And then it spun off into Telaria and became a part of Magnite. After 3 years with them, I was like, okay, I understand the buy side and the sell side, but what's this data thing? So I went over to IAS, and I led publisher and programmatic product marketing for them. Dentsu and the Amnet team were really kind and let me fly down to Texas and sit with them and watch them trade, because I was like, I don't understand how they're applying our data. Can I just sit there and watch you trade all day? And they were like, I guess, weirdo. So I did that, but that was really great. So I got to learn about the data and filters and pre-bid and deterministic data versus probabilistic data and all that exciting stuff. And then from there, IAS was acquired by Vista, and I wanted to go work on the buy side. I'd never worked at an agency. I didn't really understand how they worked. So I went to work for Analect, which is a part of Omnicom, and they do their data and tech, and they are the owners of the Omni platform. So I was the first product marketer on the Omni platform. There were like 99 people using it when I started, and I think over 23,000 had access when I left.
Wow.
I loved working at an agency. I loved working at Omnicom. I learned so much about how much ad tech thinks they understand about the buy side, and how different just the incentives are and incentive alignment. And that was great.
So for every agency person listening, it is possible to love working at an agency. You
Yes.
heard it here first on Leadership In. Yeah.
Well, and I was really lucky. I worked for really great people. And I think that that is the most important part of what you do is who you work for.
You said something really interesting that kind of segues into where we go, at least in terms of thinking through like leadership and what it means to lead. And you mentioned you raised your hand to take something on. And one piece of advice I got early on was just raise your hand. If there's something to be done and nobody wants to do it, raise your hand. Worst case scenario, it's a learning experience. Can you think of a piece of advice that you got early in your career that turned out to be either surprisingly right or wildly wrong or somewhere in between, something you've taken with you along the way?
Yes. I was like, the thing I think I get told still a lot, especially as a woman and a woman in ad tech, is don't apologize.
That's a good one.
I disagree with that completely. I think people should apologize. I have a very strong personality. I am not my best self every single day. I take a lot of risks in what I do. I like to test things out and try new things, and sometimes they don't work. And I think being like, hey, that didn't work, this failed, I'm sorry, or this caused you extra work, I'm sorry, is totally fine. That's called accountability.
That's different, right? Apologize for the outcome if it happens to be incorrect is totally fine advice. Don't apologize for your presence, I think is probably what people mean, right?
No, I think some people are just like, never say the word, you're sorry at work.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think women are told that a lot because they're like, project strength. And I do think in ad tech, there are a lot of people and leaders who make a lot of mistakes and don't ever say they're sorry. I don't want to be that kind of leader. We can choose to be a different type of leader. An accountable leader, an empathetic leader, a leader that fails and fixes the problem and moves on, and everything can be even better. We sometimes learn more from our mistakes.
Accountability is such a nice way to frame it. I love that. You talked a little bit about being a woman in ad tech. Are there moments where you had to navigate feeling like you didn't belong in the room, and how did that go?
This is always a really interesting question for me because I visibly look different. And what I've noticed is I think sometimes other people feel more uncomfortable with me being in the room versus me. My mom is white, my dad is black, I'm an only child. I grew up in a predominantly white environment, so I never looked like anybody I knew or interacted with on the day-to-day. And I grew up in this like really hippie, dippy, Quaker private school. And so I intrinsically just believe I belong in every room. And I thought that's how everybody felt, frankly. But what I notice being a woman and a woman of color is that people come up to me, and because they can see my difference, they share their differences. And then you realize how many people really feel like they don't belong in a room, and that's really interesting. You can't tell internal me that I'm not a 65-year-old white man. I have that level of confidence. I feel like I belong because I think that coming from this very mixed background and having the life experiences I have, I can find something to relate to with anybody.
Do you feel undue pressure to pay that confidence forward? I mean, you're no shrinking violet. Like, I've seen you operate in a room where not only you're the only person of color, you're the only woman, right? You told me a really funny story once about how someone asked you to bring their coffee, and you were like, yeah, that's not what I do here. I'm using the word undue specifically because I think sometimes empathetic, intelligent people of color in high-ranking positions feel a lot of pressure to bring other people of color along. Is that something that you felt along your career?
I think that being a person of color and a woman in this industry is what's kept me in ad tech. There are a lot of instances and days where I've been like, I think I'm done. But because I have been in this industry for over a decade, and when I grew up, there weren't people who looked like me, who had a platform and had a voice, I do feel a responsibility. And I feel a responsibility to be an empathetic leader and to be an ally to people who not just look like me, all different types of people. Like, my husband and I have very different backgrounds. I went to private school my whole life. I didn't have to worry about paying for college. I graduated with no debt. My husband is a straight white man from New England. He went into the military to pay for his college because his parents weren't going to. Like, he didn't have a safety net. And so when you talk about not belonging in a room, he works in product and tech, and he's like, I sit with all of these Ivy League people, and he has imposter syndrome in a way that I do not. And I realize what a responsibility I have because I come from a sense of privilege and because I feel comfortable in these environments to bring other people along. Like Reshma Sujani from Girls Who Code always says, you cannot be what you cannot see. And I want people to be able to see and to believe that they can be, and they can be better than me, and they can be higher than me, and they can do all those things.
That's really incredible perspective, frankly. I don't know that a lot of people in your position would necessarily feel the same. I'm projecting a little bit, but the one thing that you said that was, I think, extremely interesting there is that there's all kinds of ways to not feel like you fit in. There's all kinds of ways not to feel like you belong, and you never know when you're just looking at a person.
Yeah, like you have people who are first generation to college. You have people who have health issues. And again, that's sort of what I mean. You can see my difference, and people share those things with me. And I feel very lucky to get those perspectives because it's super humbling, and I realize how lucky I am and how much privilege I do have, even though I have disadvantages.
So part of this, from our perspective, I think, is not just we talk about leadership as a person, but sort of companies who lead in their space, right? So if you think about the things that OpenX is doing, what are the ways that you guys lead in the SSP, the programmatic, the automated transactive space?
OpenX has been a leader for a really long time. Like, I came to OpenX because I remember when I thought that we were all going out of business as SSPs because they launched header bidding, and I was like, oh no. And then I was like, oh no, header bidding just is. There are pros to it, there are cons to it. So even back then, OpenX was a leader. I am so proud to work there because OpenX does things the right way. They have a fantastic technological infrastructure. We're 100% cloud native. When you're thinking about AI and what that means for the future, our ability to be elastic is so incredible, and people are not talking about that enough. Infrastructure is going to be key in the next generation. There are so many platforms out there that are cobbled together different pieces of tech, and they're running on hardcore servers. And this ability to have a single platform and to have the ability to flex with the bandwidth that you're going to need to run these models effectively is so important. So like from there, OpenX has been ahead of the game because it takes a lot to re-platform. And we did that in 2018, 2019.
You were among the first, if I recall.
Yes.
Like very, very early.
Very early, and it's going to pay off, right? Like, we paid the toll back then, and everyone was kind of like, well, they are not doing anything exciting. And it's like, no, rebuilding infrastructure is not exciting. It's not going to get you headlines. But what you're then able to build on top of that years later is incredible. OpenX Select, for example, it's our supply-side targeting and curation platform, and it sits on this really dynamic, powerful infrastructure. We released Results by OpenX, which are some of our performance-driven AI models. That's in OpenX Select, right? Those work really well, one, because we have an amazing data science team, but two, because we have the infrastructure to support it. So OpenX has just been this incredible leader over time, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. And the narrative and the long-term vision and mission has always been based around quality too. Like, we are not the biggest SSP. We are one of the OGs, but we're not the biggest. And we've never tried to be the biggest. And that's intentional because of the top 6 SSPs, if you use any 2 of them, you get like 98% coverage of the open internet. So then what is all of this extra scale that everyone's talking about? You don't want it. If you're a marketer, you don't want it. When you're thinking about applying AI, it's going to put your business at huge risk. And OpenX focusing on quality and making commitments to reducing MFA, going direct to publisher. We're the only SSP that has 100% direct CTV. We've just been a leader in so many different ways in the past decade that it's a really exciting place to work. And you know, when we launched TV by OpenX, people were like, this isn't going to be successful because no one wants biddable CTV. Well, 72% of people who are using OpenX Select today use CTV. And we are bringing incremental demand, unique demand to our CTV publishers.
Yeah, my friend Walker Jacobs, who I'll shout out here, he's CRO of DAZN now. but back when we were at Turner, called it the fallacy of limitless supply, which I've taken with me through my whole career. Supply, generally speaking, may be limitless. Quality supply is not. And you're making that exact point.
And then there's the value add. You talked about the data, you talked about OpenX Select, results by. There's all these reasons where it's too simple an argument when it gets made that any two SSPs can solve your needs. Like, that might be true on paper, but you're not going and saying we have supply. You're going and telling the rest of that story. And I think that's something that I've seen. I've done a lot of work with SSPs, and often that's where they go wrong, is not talking about all the ways in which they're adding value. And I think OpenX has done such a good job of creating value, but then also telling that story.
Well, thank you. I was like, I will take that compliment.
You talked a lot about the products and the telling of the story, but when I think about OpenX, there's other ways in which you really showcase leadership, and people is particularly what I'm thinking about here, but can you talk about other ways in which OpenX leads?
Ooh, well, we have one of the most incredible executive teams I've ever worked with, and not just executive teams, but the entire leadership stack and just the type of people we hire. Everyone's super humble. You have Stacy Boer, who built this massive business at Trade Desk, being one of the early sales leaders there. You have Matt Sattel. You have Joe Warswick out in EMEA. You have Mitch Greenway in APAC. You have all of these really wonderful people who are leading. Tyler Ramasco. They're all trying to do the right thing. We run our business that way. We run our business with integrity. These are all people with integrity. And then we have all those other aspects of leadership like sustainability. It's not the hottest topic now, but we were the first carbon neutral certified ad tech platform, and we were the first ones to be net zero. And it's not about the title of being those things. It's about the process. We measured, we reduced, we did everything the right way. That ethos and the people that we have that are doing that is really important.
That's such a good example of leadership, and the sustainability is also a great example because it was front and center for a lot of marketers for a long time, and you did it because it was the right thing to do and is paying dividends in terms of SPO and carbon emissions and everything else. You did it because it was the right thing to do, not to get the gold star, as you say, which I think is a good example of the kinds of leaders we want to see and like to have in the industry.
Well, and that comes from John Gentry, too. Like, it comes from the head.
Right.
He's been at our company for 12 years, I think. And John is committed to always trying to do things the right way. Even if we, as a company, sometimes take the immediate financial hit, long term, we believe that doing the right thing is going to get us and the industry to where it needs to be.
Wait, can you hit at that a little more? It's funny because it dovetails with a question that we put together coming in, which is how do you balance the notion of being agile and going where the market or the industry is going versus being the grown-up in the ad tech room, so to speak?
It's hard to be the grown-up in the ad tech room. Ad tech is petty.
You don't have to tell me.
Like, ad tech is petty. So a lot of times you like call something out that's not right, and people are like, oh, they're the worst, they're coming after me. And it's like, it's not about you. It's about doing the right thing. This has nothing to do with you, XYZ company. This has to do with the industry and what it should be. Like, right now, there's a product out there called Permission to Pay.
Okay.
And the IAB standards for ads.txt and sellers.json are meant to show supply path. But technically, how they're written, it's payment path. So there are, in theory, folks out there who are saying, okay, low value reseller, I will pay you directly. And if I'm getting a premium pub through you, I'll pay them directly. And I'll make it look like this is direct inventory. And they are adhering to the spec, and we've been asked to do it, and we were like, we're not going to do that. That is not what it was meant to be. That's what I mean by we could make more money doing that, but that is not the right thing for ad tech. That is not the right thing for this business, and we need to have grown-ups in the room.
What is a leadership decision you've made recently that you think would surprise people outside of your company?
My goal for us this year and next year is to actually be more collaborative with folks who fall in our competitive bucket.
Well, that ties back to what you've been talking about, right? Which is, how does a tide raise all ships? I'm going to beat this metaphor to death. But if you're bringing in the sustainability tide and you're bringing in the, let's say, inventory transparency tide, how are you raising all the other ships? That's the grown up in the room piece.
Yeah, like there's some platforms out there that are doing really impressive, high quality work who are trying to do things the right way. And it's not just that I respect their brands, I very much respect their other marketing leaders. And there are so many people in this industry and so many similar platforms that are doing good work that I think we all could collaborate more to be better. And so I think that that's a decision that would probably surprise people.
I love that example, and I think we'll have to watch for more of that collaboration because it sounds like it's going to end up being very public things as you get there.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I have to convince them.
Your job as a leader.
Yeah, they'll be like, what? We didn't know. That's why I was like, I think this would be surprising for everyone in the industry.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
We've talked a lot about, as a leader at OpenX, how you are trying to make things easier in the industry. Is there anything that you guys have done during your time there that's actually made things more complicated?
I think that there's this myth in ad tech in general and in B2B tech in general, just innovators and leaders, that everyone gets to the same place as fast as they do, and that there's a higher customer acquisition cost to new products because you have to do a lot of market education. All the noise we're seeing around curation now is that, right? So like at OpenX, we have gone back and forth on names, and now we've committed supply side targeting equals data-driven curation, curation, general site list, inventory quality, that type of stuff. We were the first on supply side targeting. It makes it harder. It makes it harder to have to learn new things, to have to do something different. Targeting on the supply side is different. Yes, you get higher match rates. Yes, you get better data fidelity. Yes, you get all of these things. But what people aren't thinking about is that on the agency side, there are thousands and thousands of traders that are used to doing things a certain way, and this disrupts that flow. It requires training. It requires documentation. That's hard. That's expensive for an agency, right? That's FTE. Now, as we have continued to evolve this and we work with folks like our customer advisory board, we get to learn what their workflows look like and we can build to them, right? You want to build a custom brand standard for inventory quality, MFA, all of those things. Now you can set it once in a platform like OpenX Select and automatically apply it to all of your DSPs. That is time saving for you. But to get there, it was initially harder.
To your point, just how to disrupt what it is that they're doing. Is AI disrupting that in any meaningful way? Like even the effort to getting supply side targeting stood up and activated?
I could talk about AI all day. Yes. I think that people are so jazzed about AI. What they're not thinking about is the fact that it is going to do things that they don't want it to do, and that it has the potential to break things and no one's going to know how to fix it. If your AI system is taking over all of your engineering and no one is checking that code, if that code then breaks or makes a significant change to how something is functioning, you don't know what it is anymore because a human did not do it. There's no documentation trail on it. Identifying how you need to modify it to fix it could just be different because you're not understanding the pros and cons and what pulling those different levers is going to do. And also just data quality and maintenance is going to be so much more important moving forward to moving fast. But yeah, I think it's going to disrupt everything.
Greg and I have had this conversation. I say this all the time. The people who know how to use AI the right way are going to be the people that are the leaders of the next generation, right? It's not using AI as an employee. It's how are you employing AI in order to do what you need to do.
And it's really amplifying a dynamic that's been present for a long time of what did the machine do? Do we like what it does? Do we want it to do more of that or less of that? And how does that apply across different use cases and scenarios? And then in service of moving quickly, there's not even always a lot of documentation today when the human is touching it, but that's going to become critical to the success going forward.
Yeah, and like I'm really jazzed about AI. Don't get me wrong. Like I think it's the most exciting thing that has happened to this industry maybe ever. And I'm pumped about it. And I think a lot of people are afraid because they're like, oh no, it's going to take our jobs. It's also going to create a lot of
So many
jobs.
jobs.
Like it's going to create so many jobs. It's just, you're going to have to be curious. But like I was a religious studies major and now
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Now I work in B2B ad tech. So just keep asking questions and you'll eventually get there. There's this curiosity and just educating yourself and being a part of it. You don't have to know it today to be an expert in 10 years.
Well, there's also not a ton to know yet. That's the other thing that people are, I think, looking past, which is that it's not like a fully formed thing.
No.
It's like 3% of the way toward what it might eventually be one day in the indefinite future.
And ad tech has always been on the edge of technology generally. And to Jeff's point, there isn't a lot to know yet, but how is it actually going to get applied is what's really exciting and is where there's just going to be opportunities that we're not even thinking about yet.
Well, another little creepy plug for OpenX. But that's what I think is so cool about our infrastructure, right? We're having the ability to partner and build with so many people, and people can build on top of this really dynamic, elastic platform and really manage cost, right? Because when you think about that flexibility to run those models and do all those things, it's really about managing cost because that cost gets passed on to the consumer.
Is that happening a lot? Because I think that's super interesting, building the platform in that way, not just that OpenX is building for its own customers, but that you've got customers that are building businesses on top of OpenX.
Yeah, and we're working with different partners like Chalice and Swim and Scope 3, and they're all on the cutting edge of AI, but that infrastructure is a piece of that.
It has to be.
Yeah.
I don't think you could do it any other way.
What's a piece of advice that you give often?
Piece of advice that I give often, and I give it to myself often because I need it, is to always assume the best in people and to always assume the best intention in folks, especially as I talk to younger women in our industry and people of color. I think that sometimes in ad tech, people will be like, oh, this person treated me this way because I'm a woman or because I'm a minority. And I'm like, it also might just be because that person's an asshole. And I was like, trust me, I have had that thought too. Like I worked at a company and I was like, oh, does this person hate me because I'm a Black woman? And then I looked around, I was like, oh no, this person is
They hate everyone.
rude to everyone. And taking that piece out of it, I think gives people a lot of their self-confidence back. Don't worry about them because if they're a bad actor, everyone knows. Everybody knows. You don't have to worry about it. You show up, you be your best self, you be polite, you be kind, and assume the best in people because that positive energy will come back to you.
When I was newer in the industry, I got really upset at someone in the industry for behaving badly. Someone came up to me and said to me, don't worry about him. Everyone who matters in the industry knows he's a drunk. And I just laughed my ass off because I thought that was the funniest possible thing somebody could have said to me. But to your point, it just totally set me at ease. Okay, it's not me. I need to set that aside. And Doug Knopper, who was the CEO of Freewheel for a long time, similarly was like, just assume positive intent. Start there and everything else follows.
And we're moving fast. So when I'm trying to do something, people are like, Amanda, are you mad at me? And it's like, no, but I need this thing. I didn't have time to ask about your weekend. And the higher up I get in the company and the more I've developed my career, the more I go back and check myself. And I'm like, Amanda, make sure to ask how their weekend was, or did they have a good afternoon, or was this vacation okay, before you're like, and can you get me this data? Because for a long time, I would just Slack them and be like, hey, can you get me this data? Which a lot of my executive leaders over my career really appreciated because like they're like, oh, great, she's not wasting my time. I don't have to read 6 sentences. So it worked really well then, but now it is something as a more broad people leader, I need to change and adapt because it comes off as curt.
I love that example, and I think you have to know your people as you go because some of them will be your executive leaders or will be like them, and they're just like, let's get to the point. What's your question? I know you're a good human. We like each other. We don't need to talk about our weekend, and other people really need that, and it's about meeting them where they are.
Exactly.
Yeah. As you talked about getting more senior, any other advice that you noticed where you changed or you had to evolve your leadership style as you got more senior, or advice you would give to people as they think about that?
Really understand your strengths and weaknesses and understand that the strengths that got you to where you are might actually be your weakness now.
Love that.
You talk a lot about how when you're first starting your career, you're mostly a doer. right? So there's a lot of doing and very little leading or thinking. And as you grow in your career, those things really start to shift. And so when you get into a position like yours, a lot of it isn't doing. And so those take different skill sets. They take different proficiencies. They take different all kinds of things, competencies. So that's incredible.
We've all been people managers, and I think we've probably all got examples of this, but people who haven't had good coaching along the way, they were the superstar when they were new hires, interns, whatever, and high performance looked like showing up on time, sober, and doing your work. And as you get more senior, what success looks like and what delivering looks like and what showing up looks like evolve quite a lot.
Yeah, and not being sober too.
Don't be the drunk.
I think a lot of people are afraid to ask for support. I have three or four active mentors right now. Daniela Harkin at LiveRamp, Ken Ross, who's like a former comms person, a leader at Netflix, and Stuart Oltree, who is a CEO at Avon. They are all very different from me, and a lot of them are white men. But like, they were the best. You guys are the best. You're the best at what you do. I think sometimes people are like, I want to find a mentor that has a life experience of me. No, find the best. Daniela, the best. Find the best and learn from them and bring them problems. I'll be like, I handled this situation this way. I don't know that this was the best way to do it. What would you have done? And I get incredible advice from them. And I don't always do it or use it exactly as they say it. I make it my own. But it is so, so helpful in helping me evolve as a person and as a leader.
So you're winking at this actually as you talk about them. But when you start to think about your legacy, your impact, what do you want that to look like when you hang it up 25 years from now, let's say?
I want to leave ad tech better than I found it. A lot of people in ad tech have media backgrounds, and it was a very different time, screaming in offices. People would be like, so-and-so is in a bad mood today, run. And there's still some of that in ad tech. There are a lot of people who feel like outsiders in ad tech. There is sometimes a cruelty in ad tech. And I just want to leave it better. I want to leave it more inclusive. I want to leave it kinder. I want to leave it more ethical. Why people are always looking for the loophole. Leave the loopholes alone. Just figure out how to make better technology that doesn't need a loophole. And fight on fair competition and fair value exchange. A fair value exchange is how I want to leave this industry. And let the market determine, but be transparent, build high quality tech, be empathetic, and just be slightly more inclusive. Like that's how I want to leave it.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I think probably leave it there. Yeah, Amanda, thank you so much. I mean, this was really unbelievable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leadership In is hosted and produced by Jeff Wallenitz and Greg McDonald. This episode was recorded at Podstream Studios in New York City. Special thanks to the amazing studio team and to Jess DeWeese for production support. Please follow the show on your favorite podcast app. If you have questions or know someone who'd make a great guest, we'd love to hear from you at leadershipinpodcast@gmail.com.